Ash, welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
Hi, Andy. Happy Hanukkah. It's great to see you too.
Great. Ash, I wanted to ask you about this whole the emergence of the value of first party data. And we've been talking about first party data, and the walled gardens have been doing pretty well at it over the years. What is the emerging need, value, utility of first party data in terms of media acquisition and performance, and particularly around CTV? Share some of your thoughts.
Sure. So I think there are sort of two sides of the coin, if you will, right? I just want to take a step back from CTV in particular. And if we look at the evolution of consumer brands, and just first consumer brands, but also just in general, first party data. If we go back in time, first party data and the data that an advertiser held often was used to do sort of media mix modeling and, this area that still is somewhat of a dark art sometimes for us to make better investment decisions and to try and measure the effectiveness of every dollar they spend in media. And it was really there was greatest confidence in the feedback loop of media mix modeling or attribution sort of measurement in digital because it's more quantifiable. And we were trying to, many companies have done a great job of trying to provide the same back end measurement to better quantify the effectiveness of investment for television as well. But again, a little bit of dark art always, right? So I think the evolution of first party data and being used in that application, and now actually today on digital platforms more and more with the utilization of DMPs and automated platforms like programmatic, and then specifically in television with CTV now and IP-based TV channels and platforms. First party data can be used to target and to reach specific audiences and to actually, sort of implement what is a very thorough, kind of user journey, if you will, of targeting, retargeting, coming back and around to make sure that you follow through to try and get to what is ultimately a purchase or some type of action for a consumer to take. And so the applicability and the utilization of first party data has changed and become much more quantifiable and meaningful, I think, for advertisers and for brands and how they spend and ultimately how they measure the effectiveness of every dollar they spend for media.
So Ashley, we've spoken about retail data for a long time. Shopping data has been available. It seems to be more front and center with a lot of big retailers making that available, and certainly we see about Amazon in terms of using that data set to determine investment and performance. How do you see this sort of new crop of retail data sort of changing the game?
So let's call a spade and just say now that we see such significant shift in spending, moving to online from direct retail sort of at the till, if you will. You know, we are seeing these are walled gardens if we're keeping it real. These are walled gardens, very large retailers that were specifically allowed to stay open during lockdowns, right? Which is where we sort of see that coming from, and grocers and things like that. They are building walled gardens. Amazon's retail data set is used to sort of, ultimately sell and direct media and target media and retarget media within their platform and their advertising solution. And that's really its core focus. So it's not undifferent like, the Facebooks and the Googles of the world that had this immense amount of data, but that data has to stay when it's combined with first party data within their walled garden in order to be able to deliver and execute buys of sort of measurable value for buyers using data, right? So I just think it's really important we level set there and have that understanding. What I think is really interesting now in retail and what sort of happened is that, when you go to sort of what's happening at retail and you look at in a in-store environment and being able to measure that, there was still a little bit of uncertainty, whether we were able to like follow that sort of through to the end and follow a consumer using first party data from kind of, up funnel stuff to then, getting them to take an action and eventually going to retail to make a purchase. Now that purchasing is online, there is much greater certainty and confidence and reliability and measurability in the data to ultimately see whether or not that consumer has taken an action and made a purchase. And then we have the world of cookies in the US in particular, we're able to see their shopping behaviors, their consideration set, what is in their cart, et cetera. And so it's been a whole new world. And I think in some ways it's immense opportunity, but I still think that a lot of folks are drinking from a fire hose. I think there's, every retailer is doing slightly different things with their data sets and offering slightly different products and solutions to brands and advertisers. And I think it's a lot for media buying teams to actually figure out where to allocate dollars, and in particular from the perspective of how much money they keep in the traditional media budget, up funnel with television, et cetera, because brands are spending there, specifically CPG, versus moving into more direct acquisition, performance-based dollars in digital in partnership with retailers and distributors of CPG products.